Good morning, everybody. So I gotta admit, when I was going to start with this, when I saw the panel I was on and what the title was, and I saw in a question, how do you become the next Silicon Valley, I was incredibly nervous because I was like, I'm going to have to start a conversation immediately disappointing everybody. So I was like thinking of ways I was going to have to dance around the answer that I thought was the answer to that question. And I'm like, how can I kind of indirectly answer it without answering it completely? And that honestly probably goes all the way back to when I was in middle school, really young. This girl actually asked me to be her boyfriend. And rather than let her down, which I'm really bad at, I actually chose the routes I walked around my middle school each day to avoid seeing her face to face. So I vowed to change today, and I apologize to Courtney for that if she happens to be in the room. It was rough. So I'm going to change, and I'm going to say that can you be the next Silicon Valley? Probably not. I have a mentor at home who I pitch a lot of crazy things to, and he always lets me down fairly easy, but he always ends it and he says, but Mark, that's just my opinion. And I start to feel a little better. And he says, but it should be yours too. So you know what, probably not. And the temptation is, when you see somebody successful like Silicon Valley and doing something like that region, is to say, how can I do exactly what they're doing in my community? So how am I going to do that? I'm going to slap the word silicon in front of something that describes my community. So I'm going to be the Fort Worth Silicon Cattle Ranch. And we're going to do tech innovation, and we're going to compete with the Valley. And I'm just going to say that I think that's poor strategy. Now, if they do decide to be the Fort Worth Silicon Cattle Ranch, I do want to trademark that immediately. So I will want to receive something for that, some credit. But the temptation is to try to do what they've been doing, and for reasons that have been stated, it's really difficult to do because, like Nathan said, it kind of happened by accident. So don't feel bad. There's communities all over the country and all over the world that thought they could get involved in tech and really be a competitor with Silicon Valley. New York City, London, Boston, they all wanted to get in and do it, but they realized they're good at serving entrepreneurs in other ways, and that's kind of a good model for everyone else. Like, they're really successful cities. Let's serve entrepreneurs in other ways. So I wanted to start with saying, like, you know what? A lot of people know Silicon Valley, it's tech, but maybe don't know that much about it. So what makes Silicon Valley unique? Let's spend a few minutes saying, like, what makes them who they are. So people, culture, universities, history, and environment. If you do any Google search, those things are going to come up. So the people, they're young, driven, focused, and smart. Other than that, they're nothing. But they also know HTML, which it stands for How to Meet Ladies. No one really knew that. So they're good looking too. Also amongst the people, there's a completeness. So rather than have to go here for venture funds, here for lawyers, here for patent attorneys, here for accountants, they're all mixed together in the same place. And this is the second Shark Tank picture of this presentation. And if you go home with nothing that I say, you should watch Shark Tank. It's really inspiring. You'll come up with all sorts of crazy ideas of how to get rich. So next, their culture. Super open work environments. Formal hierarchy is not the norm. It's just as easy to see the CEO playing ping pong with a bottom level guy and just pitching ideas. They work the hours they want to work. Doors are always open. Very creative. Very easy to just change ideas with one another. And also, failure isn't failure. That's tough for a lot of communities. I mean, it's almost a badge of honor in Silicon Valley. If you failed, it's like, oh, you just had a failure? That's pretty good. Let's start something else. So it's a different culture. Universities, obviously we all think, and I hear a lot, like they have San Jose State University, UC Berkeley, Stanford. They have these great engineering schools. That's not fair. We don't have those. That's why they're so far ahead of us. But the truth of the matter is, there's just a study that came out because people wanted to know how many people from other universities are leaving and coming to Silicon Valley, that everyone in this room has just as much chance to land those people, those entrepreneurs. And that study was crazy, starting with Harvey Mudd College, which we are all huge fans of. That's actually Wally the Wart. It's a very intimidating figure. But all the way, 20% of their graduates leave for Silicon Valley. And then, there are some obvious ones here, all the Ivy League schools, but, Duke is in the Research Triangle Park, and they're still losing 8% of graduates to the Valley. So, I mean, they're not only got their own that they grow, but they're recruiting from everyone else too. Obviously, they provide talent that's specific to the needs of those in Silicon Valley, and they have state-of-the-art research. Their history, military played a vital role. So the Navy, they needed innovation. They were going to do these huge giant airships in the sky, and that was going to be the future of aviation. So they were starting to do that, and it didn't work out how they wanted to, but the military paid for people to come into the Valley, really, really smart people to come in, and they funded it. So next, Valley's already established. We already know that, and there's countless amounts of businesses that have already kind of showed the model works. Everything's working in Silicon Valley. So they have a history that you just can't recreate. Next, there's something that it was stated in a book kind of famously. Anna Lee, and then her last name is like Sosololon. I was just going to say it really fast and mumbly. It's kind of like Worcestershire sauce. No one really knows how to say it. But so you just say quick, like Worcestershire sauce. That's what I want on my steak. So anyway, Anna Lee is what I like to call her. Is she said the environment matters, and that was a major contributing factor when Boston and Silicon Valley were competing for tech back in the day. You know what? It's always nice in Silicon Valley. It's sunny 200 plus days a year. It's rarely too hot or too cold. I learned a lot of the houses, they don't even have air conditioners, and you know, if you're from Texas or from the Southeast where I'm from, if I had to choose between like my grandma and my air conditioner, don't make me. Like grandma's lived a good life. I've got a lot of air conditioning left. So I'm like, ugh. So, sorry grandma. Her and Courtney both get apologies. Also, it's 30 minutes from the beach, 5 hours from the nation's best ski slopes. I can surf, I can ski, I can go up to the redwoods, and I'm close to Yosemite. It's really got everything. It was really depressing learning so much about the valley. I kind of learned to hate them. Yeah, and now they have a great sports team too. It's like, man. So can you be the next Silicon Valley? And you know, I've answered that in words, but pictures are easy to understand too. So. In this sumo wrestling match, you're going to play the role of the little boy on the right. This is Silicon Valley. But I mean, I was looking at this and I was like, I don't know what's going to happen here. I'm pretty sure I know what's going to happen, but maybe this little guy's a fighter. He's got a chance. And it looks like maybe he has a plan. He's focused. He's like, I'm not scared at all. I've got a plan. I'm going to put this thing into place. So I was like, you know what? I might take the long shot here. And then, well, that escalated quickly. So, can you be the next Silicon Valley? Probably not. So you're telling me there's a chance. At this point, we can use more seats, so that's your reaction. So, you know, and a good example of this, even the Harvard Business Review, like, oh, they're in the Boston area. Like, they should be talking about themselves and pitching themselves as tech. I mean, the bold headline is here, don't build your startup outside of the valley. Like, man, if I was building mine in Boston, I'd be like, even they said I shouldn't. So that speaks volumes. One guy who famously did that, this Mark Zuckerberg fella. So he started his company, obviously, in the Boston area, and very quickly, through the advice of Justin Timberlake, he decided within 45 minutes of the movie, I'm moving to the Valley. So the rest of my presentation is all based off pop culture and movies. So it was an easy decision there. So now that I've really just told everybody what they can't do, I wanted to get into what you can do. So there's several questions that came up that you kind of have to answer, and we all spend time answering this question, even if you're on the private side or on the public side. How can we be the best and most entrepreneurial community we can be? How can we do our own thing and not compare us to something that's so great? How can we help our companies grow faster? I mean, that's one thing the Valley does. Most companies that start there start with 2 people. It's not like they've recruited a 1,000-employee firm. Start with 2 people that grows into thousands of employees. So how can we foster small business owners and make sure they have the resources to grow? And what do entrepreneurs and existing businesses need? So what you have to do, obviously, you guys, everyone knows this, identify what your community is good at and has potential to be good at. So this is one option. So it's clusters. Figure out what your clusters are, what you guys have that's unique, and build off of that. One risk to that, and a downside, is that you might start to ignore other potential opportunities there because it doesn't fit to your cluster. So make sure your scope is open to understand what could be the next Facebook or whatever the case may be. Provide services to entrepreneurs and business owners so that they can grow. So services are really important, not just, hey, go talk to your local SBDC or go talk to your chamber. You can provide some services on your own that also partner with those organizations. And we've talked about most of these up here. You know, there's a lot of different things you can do that are going to accelerate growth. So questions, obviously, that are answered or asked. As how can you serve all of your entrepreneurs with limited staff and capacity and budget? I hear that question every day, like I don't have the manpower or the money. It's like, that's rough. But how do you serve all businesses and not just the ones that you identified as gazelles? How do you support businesses and industries that your experts have no expertise, which some won't admit? And then how do you serve busy entrepreneurs on their schedule? So it gets into one thing. I mean, I have time, very little. Obviously, they told me I have a time limit here, but there are tools out there that can help people. And we just realized, like, okay, one that I'm going to show you is one that's just being used here in Fort Worth because it's easy to base it off of. But it shows, like, small businesses, they're good at what they do. They're really good at making clothing, or at cleaning your teeth, or building the furniture you're sitting on. But when it comes to knowing what to do on the business side of things, they're clueless. Like, they're just really good at what they do, and that's what they focus on. They need help. So who's going to provide them that help? Well, if you're a large corporation, you're going to purchase that help. You're just going to buy it. You're going to hire a research firm, and you're going to use all these resources to figure out the information you need to know. If you're a small business, obviously there's a big red wall. So the product that I feel like I should tell you about, and that they are using here and throughout the country, it's called Size Up, and it breaks that down. So what does Size Up do? And if you haven't heard of it, I'm going to kind of go over it a little bit, but it's a local business intelligence tool. It's 4 tools built into one. So rather than going here, 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 and here, it does the business and industry analysis, the benchmarking. So part of that CEB research study says they don't have access to that information. So our tool is instantly going to give you, right here, benchmarking. Advertising analysis is going to show you exactly where the best places to advertise are, because you really are probably basing it off intuition and not data. And then it's going to give them that competitive edge, show what their competitors are doing, where they're doing it at, and give them potential suppliers and business customers, and also demographic analysis. So one tool that's on your website all the time that you're helping small businesses with when you're actually taking no time to do it. It's just simply embedded on your website. They can use it on Christmas Day at midnight if they want to. So super easy to use, and just showing a few slides here. All you have to do is know what you do, and if you're a small business owner and you have no idea what your business does, that's going to be a red flag. But just type it in, what you do. You don't have to know any codes or anything. What do you do, and where do you do it at? It's industry specific and geographic specific. And then it's going to come up with all these categories that if you didn't have a tool to tell you where you stood in these categories, you would have literally no way of knowing, or your mom would say, you're the best, and that's what you would believe. So that's what I use. You just type in simply, what's your revenue? You roughly know that. And imagine if you're a startup and you're sitting down, and usually you'd have to have an expert tell you, like, I think in my first year as an ice cream parlor, I'm going to make $10 million. Well, if you type that into this tool, it would probably boot you off. But it's going to tell you, like, no, $10 million, you're going to be in the millionth percentile. Let's base this something that's actually attainable, and base where you're going to do business off something that's attainable. And it shows you that all the way down, to the city level, all the way out to the national level. So no matter what size business you are, the information you want is going to be there. It shows you things like trending. Are like more businesses opening every day or more closing every day? If I'm thinking of breaking into the VCR industry because it's coming back, that thing's going to be just sliding. Like, I don't believe that is coming back. But there are other businesses that obviously it's going to scale upward. In my town, it's like cupcake shops. Like, they're everywhere. I think it's going to do this, but that's neither here nor there. So, what you're paying your employees, make sure it's competitive. So there's all these categories. You just simply take 5 minutes of your time to type in things you already know or what you're projecting, and it's going to tell you with a really simple arrow that points to green is in good, yellow is in kind of average, and red is in poor. So it's super user-friendly. That's obviously important when you're working with small businesses who might not be tech geniuses. And next, advertising analysis is going to show you where the most revenue is being generated. So this is good to know, like, oh, okay, these are the areas of town that have already figured out what I'm doing. Let me go try to tap into some of those dollars. And on the opposite end of that, it can actually show you where underserved markets might be. So there's a lot of consumer expenditure from households in this area, but the businesses aren't making any money for one reason or the other. There's a potential market there that I could hop right into, and now the tool's telling me that rather than just having to figure it out on my own. You can also drop more filters on top of that, so you can increase your radius, you can put demographic filters on top of it, and hopefully narrow that down to one area that the tool is going to tell you, this is the best place to go. In the competitive intelligence, let me show on top of a map where every one of your competitors are. So, if you were wanting to open your ice cream shop, but you saw there were 17 ice cream shops within 2 blocks of there, that's probably not a good area. I don't know there's enough people eating ice cream to get to that area. So it's going to show you where every one of your competitors are and what their street address is. It's going to show you every potential customer. Type in a business that you supply. It's going to show you every single customer. And it's also going to give you their name, their phone number, and their potential website. So you can go through there and just gain business through 3 clicks. Same thing with suppliers, and then you can view them all at once and even drop consumer expenditure dollars on top of that through a heat map. So now I'm saying, like, now I'm really starting to put every piece of the tool together to give me the best chances of succeeding in certain areas. And then through our demographics, it's going to take that a step further. All I have to do is know what my target market is. By default, it's going to tell you, like, there's 750,000 people in Fort Worth. Well, that doesn't do me much good as a small business because I can't afford to reach out to 750,000 in hopes of my target market seeing it. So can you tell me where those 750,000 people are located? Well, yes, I can. Just click this button. Now it's going to tell me where the densest population of every single demographic stat that we have. And then you can draw your own boundaries, so you can say, I only do business with the north side because they're the furthest from Cowboys Stadium. Then just draw away from that stadium, and you're going to be able to draw your own custom boundary around it, and it's going to tell you exactly what the demographics are within that. And then, you can go a radius, you can do your 135 or all the way out to 60 if you want to, around a specific address, or a drive time around that very same address of a labor force, consumer expenditure, demographics. So kind of the moral of the story is there are tools out there, and this is one of them, that can do everything that we identified as issues for small business and entrepreneurs on their own without any of my staff time and just a few clicks to learn as much as I can learn. So I believe that's the end. It is.
Thank you.